Hi, this is Grace Craig, and I dragged my mom and brother along with me to Lafayette Square. I'm going to be telling you guys some history about the area and what it's like there today. Here we go. Alright, let's get you guys there first. So my family started on DePere Road, and we turned left onto Doherty Ferry, then took a right onto 270 South. After about 2 miles, you take exit 5B for 44 East. Then you're going to take the exit for Kings Highway and take a left once you get off. You'll follow the signs for 64 East and stay on that highway until you get to Jefferson Avenue. You'll take that exit and then turn right, following that road until you reach Lafayette Avenue, where you'll take a left and you're there. Now before we get into what it's like today, let's talk about some history. This guy is John Fletcher Darby. He was a mayor and he decided to start selling the land that we now know as Lafayette Square in 1836 because lots of bands of criminals used to gather there and rob people. So the land was sold to rich white people. They were mainly there because they wanted out of the city, and this was moving west for them. As the richer people began to move in, it became the Beverly Hills of St. Louis. This chunk of land was originally a 30-acre park used for livestock pastures and was named after Marquis de Lafayette, who was a popular American Revolution general and war hero who visited the area in 1825. As people started to move in, houses were being built, and the park in the middle of the area, Lafayette Park of course, was established. Lafayette Park is the oldest park west of the Mississippi River, which I think is pretty cool. As people moved in, the need for jobs increased, and many people in this area worked at cotton factories, breweries, iron foundries, and tobacco factories. We had a lot of immigrants come in that were German and Czech, and they came for all these job opportunities. In the 1840s, the area was kind of bland. Not many people lived there, and it was brand new. As the 60s came around, it became one of the most fashionable neighborhoods and was the most popular recreation spot in the city. However, in the 90s, people started to continue to move west and away from Lafayette. This movement was dramatically increased after the Great Cyclone of 1896, which hit the neighborhood hard. The park was destroyed, as were the buildings that were surrounded it. People gave up, and they left. Through the 1920s, the area was neglected and ignored, but when the 1960s rolled around, the Lafayette Square Restoration Committee was created to fix the area. Buildings were restored, houses were built, restaurants were established, and by 1972, it was acknowledged as SDL's first historic district, and this brings us to today. Today, Lafayette Square is a really cool place. The painted ladies, park, statues, climbing wall, restaurants, and shops give it a vintage feel. Let's start with the houses, one of the most recognizable parts of the neighborhood. Most of them are called the Painted Ladies. These are 3-story houses that are pretty narrow but extend back really far. They're each painted a different pastel color with a door to complement it. Some just have one color, others have several, and some have simple designs and embellishments. Each follow the same design though and give the neighborhood a uniform but unique look. One of these houses is the Park Avenue Mansion. It was built in the 1870s by a wealthy entrepreneur named William Skranka for his wife Mary. The mansion was first used to host fancy and formal events, but has since been used as a birthing hospital, funeral parlor, doctor's office, boarding house, and is now a famous St. Louis bed and breakfast. Twice a year, the residents of Lafayette Square open up their homes for tours led by the Lafayette Square Restoration Committee, and this started in 1969 when residents wanted to show off their renovations and promote other homes for sale in the area. Next, the park. Lafayette Park, as I said earlier, was the first park west of the Mississippi. It was a prime recreational spot, but when the Great Cyclone of 1896 hit, it was destroyed. The trees you see here were torn from the ground and blown to shreds. There was nothing. The surrounding houses were gone even. But the park has become a really beautiful place, more so when it's not winter, but it has. There's a playground in the middle of the park with swings and slides and things like that, and there are also these really cool sculptures done by Bob Cassidy. In the park there are 2 monuments. One is a statue of George Washington. It was made in 1869 and it is one of the only bronze castings of the original marble statue in Virginia. It is most likely the only thing that he posed for, and the original was done by a French sculptor in 1788. The next statue is one of Thomas Hart Benton. It was done in 1868 by Harriet Godhue Hosmer, the first professional female sculptor, and it was the first public monument in the state of Missouri. Also in the park are 3 cannons. These 2 long toms and 1 carronade were originally from the 28-cannon British ship that entered Charleston Harbor in 1776 to bomb Fort Moultrie but sunk. Lastly in the park there is Lafayette Park House. This was built in 1867 for use as a police station, and it now serves as an office for the Lafayette Square Restoration Committee and a public substation for the city of St. Louis. Also, a fun fact about the park is that they hold free concerts here throughout the summer, so if you're interested in music, you might want to hop on that. Next are the churches and schools. First on the list is Lafayette Park United Methodist Church. The church was established in 1888. It survived the cyclone and was renovated to how it looks today. As a church, they believe that God created diversity and they welcome anybody regardless of race, status, health, age, or anything like that. Lafayette Presbyterian Church is no longer a church but one of the 9 condos owned by Carol and Pat Dorsey. They renovated the church for a fresh look and is now known as the Abbey. The only major school in this area is Lafayette Preparatory Academy. It was founded in 2013 with a vision of providing a quality, free public school in the city. The students work on connecting their schoolwork to real life and problem solving. City Hospital was the first hospital west of the Mississippi and, as a result, the first in St. Louis. It was built in 1845 when cholera became a major problem and the city needed somewhere to put everyone. The original was destroyed by a fire in 1856, then rebuilt, and then again destroyed by the cyclone and rebuilt again. City Hospital was so massive that it needed its own power plant next to it that is now an indoor climbing wall called Climb So Well. This climbing place has areas for all levels of experience and ability. Every Wednesday, new climbers can come for informal sessions to get to know other climbers and learn. Alright, now on to food. The first place is called Square One Brewery. The building was first built in 1883 as a tavern and then was sold to Anheuser-Busch in the early 1900s. In the 1970s, it became a restaurant, and in June of 2004, there was a major fire in the building. It was renovated and reopened by 2006 and is now known for its high-quality beer and unique flavors of drinks. Next is Squire's. The building is a 19th century Victorian-era factory complex that originally housed the American Bed Factory. In 2001, the complex was renovated and converted to be Squire's Restaurant, a name that combines its location in the square and the Western Wire Factory that was attached to it. It also holds 80 business and residential lofts. 1111 Mississippi is the next restaurant. It's named after its street address, and it became an award-winning Tuscan Californian cuisine after once being a part of the historic International Shoe Factory. Planters Restaurant is a cocktail bar that celebrates STL's history of hospitality. It's named after the first hotel west of the Mississippi, Planters Hotel, which stood from 1817 to 1922. Lastly, my favorite place is Clementine's Naughty and Nice Creamery. This is an ice cream shop that makes all their ice cream from scratch. You walk in and are immediately greeted by calming music and vintage decorations. The blackboard on the wall lists the nice flavors, or the normal ones, and the naughty flavors, also known as the alcoholic ones. My mom and I got some ice cream here and it was amazing. The best flavor by far was the gooey butter cake ice cream. Tamara, the owner of the company, goes back and forth from her kitchen to the shop during the day, bringing fresh batches of gooey butter cake to put into the ice cream. All along the streets of Lafayette Square, there are unique shops. There's a pet shop, a barber, a yoga center, a wine shop, and lots of little local restaurants. Next to the pet shop, there's a community garden. This garden was created in 1997 and was dedicated to provide a site for residents to grow fresh foods. There are 40 beds, and its goal is to stimulate the knowledge of gardening and promote the sense of community. The Gateway Cup bike race is 4 days of racing in 4 different STL neighborhoods. One of them is Lafayette Square, and the course entails driving around the park with 4 90-degree turns just inside the boundary streets of the neighborhood that include Choteau Avenue, Dolman Street, Highway 44, and Jefferson Street. Lastly, the cakes. There's one at Lafayette Park because it's the oldest park west of the Mississippi. There's one at Lafayette Square Plaza because it's one of the oldest neighborhoods in St. Louis. And there are 2 at Ameren because 1, the company provided electricity to the 1904 World's Fair, and 2, because Ameren was one of the most generous sponsors for the STL 250 organization. Alright, so that was Lafayette Square. We talked about the houses, history, restaurants, and the park. So now it's your turn to go visit. Go grab some ice cream from Clementine's and take a walk through Lafayette Park. I know I'll for sure be visiting again.